In the criminal justice system, doll cops are considered especially heinous. In Savvy's living room, the doll most likely to be a cop is, of course, Felicity, even though she's also doing drugs on the side. This is Doll and Order. Extra, extra, read all about it. I'm reporter Kate Kittredge here with today's news. Unfortunately, today's news is sad. My once good friend, Molly McIntyre, has gone to the dark side. She's turned problematic. Molly's been running around town, drinking moonshine, smoking reefer, and even flirting with all the local ladies. This is preposterous behavior, and I'm not sure why she's changed so much. Detectives are on the case. Oh my god, I've cracked the case. Apprentice? Yes? Bring Molly in for questioning. So, I've heard you've been, what do the kids call it nowadays? Reading books? Fiction books? Yeah, no shit. What else would you call it? Apprentice, add disrespecting an officer of the law to Molly's report. Now, Molly, does this book look familiar to you? Yeah, so? I got a report from Mary Ellen that she saw you reading this book in the alley behind the local saloon. Well, someone should tell Mary Ellen that snitches get stitches. Apprentice, add threatening physical violence against a doll already suffering from polio to Molly's record. Now, Molly, do you understand the implications of what you've done? I read a book. That's it. A book that's filled with things like swear words and alcohol, references to prostitution. A book all about the dismissal of authority. It's just fiction. It's a story. It's not real. That's what everyone tells themselves, until suddenly you lose yourself in fiction and can no longer tell the difference between books and reality. Until it's too late. Wow. Another work of art from the dynamic creative team of Dick Wolf and Speedweed. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Classically Savvy, and today I am here with a very important public service announcement. As we all know, reading books is a gateway drug. Gateway drugs exist to get kids interested in trying more serious, more dangerous drugs. First, it's reading fictional books, and next thing you know, your kids may even want to try watching a movie, too. And if your kid falls too far, you may end up with a kid who even wants to try playing video games. So next time one of your kids tries to tell you, "It's just a book, Mom," picture your child in the future wearing a Catgirl headset and offering cunnilingus to their opponents' mothers on Xbox Live. It's not a world any of us want to live in, but if we work together, we can stop everyone from enjoying things. Join me today, and for just 69 cents a month, you can sponsor the Anti-Fun Foundation, which works hand in hand with creative visionaries like Dick Wolf to create meaningful anti-media media. Because the only way to stop a bad guy with a book or a TV show is to create a good guy with an even more violent TV show. Thank you.
Get you some nuts.
Yeah, you effin'.
Up yours, woke moralist. We'll see who cancels who.
So I watched the Law and Order episode all about Gamergate, and you guys, there is a lot to unpack in this one. I actually watched it 3 times, and on my third and final watch through, I found myself pausing to take notes on this thing literally every 5 seconds, because this particular episode cannot go even a tenth of a minute without dropping some kind of weird-ass commentary on society.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird.
So if you're new here, hi, I'm Savvy. On this channel, I usually review books, I do some type of business commentary, I do some video essays, but today we are going to be reviewing a TV episode instead. And the reason for that is that just a couple weeks ago, I did this big-ass deep dive all about the Gamergate saga from 10 years ago. During that video, I mentioned that I wanted to review the Law and Order episode all about Gamergate, but for that particular video, I just ran out of time. The video is already 6 hours long, but if you want a full history of Gamergate and what it was, you can check out that video as well, since this video isn't going to spend a ton of time going going into the real-life controversy itself. Instead, we are going to focus on the ways that network television attempted to fictionalize it. Today's review of this episode is going to be more contained. We're not going to spend time comparing the episode to the real-life events of Gamergate. Instead, we are going to examine this episode on its own as a work of fiction.
They are not noobs.
Noobs.
We're going to break down and analyze the story structure, the character motivations, and what the fuck this insane piece of television could possibly be trying to say about society.
Society sucks.
But before we get into that, I want to give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much to everyone who supports this channel. Patreon supporters' names are up on the screen. If you check out the description below, my Patreon supporters who contribute $5 a month and up have the option to promote their own links in my description, so check them out as well. And if you're interested in getting some behind the scenes blog posts, if you're interested in a couple of bonus videos that I put out that are more unscripted and off the cuff, where we just kind of talk about more current topics and things like that, all of that is over on my Patreon, so go ahead and check that out as well. And while I'm in the mood to keep thanking people, let's give a quick thank you to today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Magic Spoon, a high-protein cereal which for the past few years has been my absolute favorite cereal to eat. I've been enjoying Magic Spoon cereal for more than 2 years now, and I love all the different ways I can enjoy it. With tons of different flavors like fruity, frosted, cocoa, peanut butter, and many more, this cereal actually never gets old. Right now, I'm currently in the process of training in powerlifting with plans to start competing about a year from now in the first quarter of 2025. As a result, I've had to increase my protein intake a lot in 2024. Today, after I got home from the gym where I spent an hour working on my bench press, I was hungry. So here's what I did to try something new. I mixed my favorite flavor of Magic Spoon cereal, cinnamon roll, with some vanilla Greek yogurt instead of using milk like I usually do. And you guys, this was delicious. It honestly tasted better than a yogurt parfait. It had that perfect crunchy texture mixed in with the yogurt, and all the flavors work together so beautifully. Because Magic Spoon cereals have 13 to 14 grams of protein per cup, plus only about 140 calories and 4 to 5 net grams of carbs, this post-gym meal right here, 1 cup of Greek yogurt with 1 cup of Magic Spoon cereal, I created a post-gym meal with 25 grams of protein and only 250 calories. You cannot beat those ratios. If you're interested in trying Magic Spoon for yourself, go ahead and check out the link in my description below, magicspoon.com/savvy, where you can use my code SAVVY at checkout to get $5 off of your order. These cereals taste just like all the fun flavored cereals I loved growing up, but with the extra protein content I need when I'm trying to hit 140 grams of protein a day. So check out magicspoon.com/savvy, linked in the description below, where you can choose your own favorite flavors of cereal to create a variety box. You can also add in Magic Spoon cereal treats as well, which are absolutely delicious. Plus, your order comes with a 100% happiness guarantee, so if you aren't satisfied with your order, you can get your money refunded, no questions asked. Magic Spoon ships throughout the US, the UK, and Canada. Thank you again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget that you can scan the QR code on screen or click the link in my description below to try Magic Spoon for yourself. I hope you enjoy it. On February 11th, 2015, Law & Order Special Victims Unit released the 14th episode of its 16th season, titled Intimidation Game. This episode aired not even 6 months after the main events of real-life Gamergate happened. And since we know that it takes a pretty decent amount of time to make a TV show, you know, there's the scripting, the filming, the editing, the rehearsals, all of that, all the intense work that we know goes into making a piece of professional television, it's pretty clear that this episode was rushed, to say the absolute least. The second Gamergate started to blow up, you know that SVU and all of the producers behind it just immediately wanted to cash in on this controversy, so they were like, let's get this thing out ASAP, and the speed weed, as one of the producers of the show is named, the speed weed at which this episode was created definitely reflects in the quality of its storytelling as a whole. So let's go through this thing. The first note I took on this episode happened only 58 seconds in. There's a scene where Olivia Benson, head detective of the Special Victims Unit, is talking about her son, Noah, whom she recently adopted. Noah is supposed to be really young, I think he's like 2 or 3 years old, and she opens the episode by talking to another officer about how Noah recently went on a play date. Noah was off playing with some girls, and while the girls were being so nice and so feminine and they just wanted to have a sweet little tea party with their dolls, Noah, the boy, the toxic alpha male, he comes in and he just starts smashing everything, smashing all the teapots, throwing things everywhere, going full Godzilla on playtime.
It's Godzilla!
And the male cop that she's talking to says, sounds like a boy.
Foreshadowing is a literary device.
So we're starting with the gender essentialist messaging very early on. Now, I think it would be one thing if this episode were about the ways that maybe over time many men feel pressure to behave in more aggressive or violent ways because of the social messaging that discourages men from sharing their emotions, and then maybe show how that leads to men being incentivized to commit crimes like the one the episode will cover. But that's not what we're getting here. We don't get that level of nuance. Not in my Law & Order Special Victims Unit. No, instead, we're getting this boy from toddlerhood, from literally just being a baby recently. This boy is already violent solely because he is a boy. Boys will be boys. And if you had any doubt that the messaging here is just pure gender essentialism, the next line we get is the male cop saying, and I quote, "Boys run around, they break things, it's in their DNA." Great! Gender roles are literally in our DNA. Gender is stored in the balls. Got it. And the second that he says it's in their DNA, we smash cut to violent video games being played on screen. Boys are violent from birth. They break things. It's in their DNA. And now, in a completely unrelated instance, here's some footage of some violent video games. And the shot we're seeing is showing these games being played pretty much exclusively by the male characters. Noobs. What could this possibly be trying to tell us?
Foreshadowing is a literary device.
So now our ragtag cast of cops is off at a video game convention. Ice-T is there with his female cop partner, whose name doesn't matter, so for this video I'll be referring to her solely as Hater Girl, which in my notes I indicated with an 8. She was Hater Girl. Because this lady's just a straight up hater of anything fun. You're gonna see what I mean. So we quickly learn that Ice-T is a gamer. Of the whole police department, he is the only one who has ever played a video game in his life. The rest of them have no idea what he's talking about.
They are not noobs.
Noobs? In this video, there are two genders of gamers. Not men and women. But one gender is people who have literally never touched a game of any kind before, and the other is people who play violent video games all night nonstop until it melts their brain. There is no in-between, nobody who just has fond memories of playing Mario Party but doesn't think too much about games every single day. Nobody who maybe has a child who really likes Pokemon, so maybe the parent plays with them every once in a while as a way to connect with that child. No one who thinks video games are a fun little side hobby, but they don't devote too much time to it because they have other things going on. No. There's no in between. There's Ice-T, the one cop who plays violent first-person shooters every night, and as he will say, sometimes all night long, and the rest of the police department who doesn't know a joystick from a trackpad, who has literally never touched a game controller in their life. And we also know that Ice-T is a hardcore gamer. He's not a filthy casual, because in 2015, he still uses the word noob unironically.
They are not noobs.
Noobs? Man, I wish he'd said pwn. I wish he'd been like, pwn to noobs, to lols, XD, lolcats, Icon has cheeseburger. And like, at least go full retro 2005 nostalgia. Although, I guess this episode only came out 10 years after that, so it might be kind of early for 2005 nostalgia. That would be like if someone today, in 2024, were to make something retro about 2014. Like if someone were to make a retrospective on Gamergate. Who would do that? Who would do something like that? Also, I used to watch Law & Order occasionally back when I was younger, like 15-ish years ago, and I don't remember Ice-T being a gamer ever being a part of his character the entire time I watched the show, but for this episode and this episode alone, he knows literally everything about video game culture and nobody else knows anything. Got it. So Ice-T and Hater Girl are at the game convention. I'm unclear as to why she's even here because she seems to hate games and everything about them, and the cops don't seem that focused on trying to do any particular detective work, so I don't know what's going on. Ice-T is talking about this game called Kill or Be Slaughtered, which is often shortened to COBS, which I think is probably some kind of Call of Duty reference. Call of Duty! But the game is extremely violent, and lots of teen boys love to play it, so we know this is going to be extremely problematic.
Boys will be boys.
Hater Girl just keeps giving him weird looks and talking about how she doesn't get it. Why does anyone think this is even fun? Meanwhile, there's another game in the making that's coming out next week, a game called Amazonian Warriors, and this game is developed by... You guys aren't gonna believe this, you ready? This game is developed by a woman. The woman's name is Reina Punjabi, and she's going to be very important throughout this episode. At the gaming convention, there's a table for the Amazonian Warriors gaming company, and this table is being staffed by, wait for it, you won't believe this, another woman. Someone who works for Reyna's company. I think her name is Sarah. She's only in this episode for a little bit, but she has some of the wildest lines that she delivers, so just get ready for this, okay? So while this girl is working at the table at the gaming convention, some toxic alpha males come up to her and say, Reyna Punjabi only got this feminazi game made by being a slut. Slut! So there's no subtlety in the dialogue whatsoever in this show. While I think that there is some truth to the fact that there definitely are assholes who are this sexist in real life. I mean, when I made my Gamergate retrospective, I even pointed some of them out personally. They do exist. But usually in most facets of real life, sexism is a lot more subtle. There would usually be some memes, some in-jokes, couple in-group language, things that maybe some dog whistles, things like that. But in this episode, the villains are straight up like, I hate women. I hate women. We're the bad guys. They tell you they're the bad guys to your face so that you know that they're the bad guys. Professional writers supposedly wrote this script. Remember that as we go along. So these guys are mad at Reyna because her husband is a venture capitalist who has a lot of money, and he was able to help her fund her startup to make this game. Because of that, the toxic gamer bros are accusing Reyna, whom we still haven't seen, of having sex with this guy, her husband, solely for his money so that he could fund the start of her company. Meanwhile, Ice-T and Hater Girl are still walking the convention floor, and Hater Girl, despite knowing that her cop partner loves playing video games as a hobby, she says directly to him, quote, "It's like overgrown boys staring at a screen pressing buttons." So this is going to become a theme within the quality writing of this episode. Every time a character tries to use figurative language, you know, a little metaphor, a little simile, instead they just give up on trying to have a metaphor or a simile. They give up halfway through and just describe the thing literally instead. So like here, Hater Girl says, "It's like they're staring at a screen pressing buttons." No, that's literally what they're doing. They're literally pressing buttons and looking at a screen. It's not like that. The writing quality in this episode is just atrocious, and we're going to get to all the ways it gets worse. But hey, they had to rush this episode out immediately, had to strike when the Gamergate iron was hot. How else would they make those sweet gamer bucks? How else would they fearmonger to all the boomers watching this, wondering about what their kids could be getting into next? How else could they recreate the success of Reefer Madness? So the girl working at the convention table goes into the bathroom, and the guys follow her inside, they corner her in the stall, and they attack her. I thought sex-segregated bathrooms were supposed to somehow prevent this problem, but I don't know. Oh well, Law & Order doesn't care. Checkmate J.K. Rowling. And then this episode's editors decided to get very artistic with the storytelling. They thought, hey, let's use the language of film. Let's use the language of editing. Let's make a point about what's happening between the lines. Let's use the language of editing to show the deeper meaning of this episode. So while the guys are attacking this woman in the bathroom stall, the episode cuts back and forth between that happening and a crowd of people watching some other guys play Kill or Be Slaughtered and chanting, "Kill them! Kill them!" It's all like, kill them! And the guys are pumping their fists, they're watching the violent game happen, and then we cut to girl in the bathroom being assaulted. Cut back to kill them, violent video game footage, so much violence, cheering on the violence, woohoo! Cut back to woman in the bathroom getting attacked, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What could this possibly mean? That editing trick really says a lot of things about society. Get it? Because violence in video games is the same as violence in real life, right?
Actually, it's exactly the same. The game is over. I'm really going to shoot you.
We'll get to Logan Paul later, don't worry, sit tight for that. So Hater Girl goes to the bathroom after the guys leave and tries to find out from this woman what happened. She's like, "Don't worry, it's okay, I'm a cop." Don't worry, I am a cop. Someone contact r/brand new sentence. So she asks the girl what happened, and the girl tells the cop that these guys can't stand women in gaming. Hater Girl says, "What did they do to you?" And the woman responds, I shit you not, she responds, "They leveled up." People got paid to write this. They leveled up. What a quirky and fun way to refer to assault. Later, this girl comes into the police station for questioning, and we learn that the guys in the bathroom SA'd her by grabbing her chest and presumably trying to attack her further as she fought them off. She explains that all the gamer bros hate Reyna's game, Amazonian Warriors, because it's not violent enough. It's not like Cobb's. There isn't as much violence. So I'm confused here, okay? Because first, I thought it was already established that the gamer bros hated Reyna's game because they thought she was only able to fund her company because she fucked a rich guy. But now it's actually because they're mad her game isn't violent enough. Specifically that her game has options for combat, but that violence isn't a requirement, and because of that, they think the game is soft because all good games have to require explicit violence. What? Who has ever, in the history of all video games, hated a game solely because it isn't violent enough? Yeah, no one's ever played Animal Crossing. No one likes that. Animal Crossing notably has 0 fans. Definitely there's been no one in the history of forever that's ever gotten an Animal Crossing tattoo. Who would do that? That sounds ridiculous. And no one would ever play a game that just has non-violent options. Like for example, zero people have ever played Minecraft. That game doesn't exist. All the fans hated it for having creative options where you don't have to do violence. Everyone hates sports simulators. There are 0 people in the history of the world that have ever played FIFA in the history of gaming because the only reason anyone ever plays games is for guns and guns alone. Don't even get me started on Wii Bowling, a game that was a notorious failure on a console that sold 0 copies. And that's nothing to say for Pong, the most little-known game of all time, one that famously flopped back in the 1970s because who would ever play digital tennis? Games only got fun once guns were introduced. Didn't you know that? No one has ever played The Sims exclusively in build mode. No one's ever played Minecraft in creative mode. People only play games for the violence, and if the violence isn't an explicit requirement of the game, everyone hates it except for triggered SJW gamer girls. Who wrote this? Who wrote this episode? Later, walking through the police station, our friend Hater Girl, master of figurative language and engaging dialogue that she is, says this.
Security footage, it's like trying to find a geek in a geek stack.
Video games, they're like as if people were like pushing a button on a controller while looking at the screen. Finding the perpetrator is like, it's as if we were looking for a geek in a geek stack. Someone got paid to write these lines. The SVU squad heads to Reyna's office where Reyna explains more about the Amazonian Warriors game to them. She explains that in the game you get to choose your own path. You can have a society of warfare or you can have a peaceful one. The choice is yours. So the game still does offer violence, but you don't have to be violent in order to complete the game. There are plenty of games like this that exist in real life and people like them. For example, I chose the non-violent path when I played Undertale. 0 people gave me any shit about that. Actually, most gamer bros I know personally chose the non-violent path as well because it's more fun. I try to kill as few slimes as possible when I'm in the mines in Stardew Valley because my main goal is to make every possible villager fall in love with me. At the time I was writing the script for this video, I currently had 3 girlfriends and 1 boyfriend in Stardew Valley, but now, at the time that I'm filming this, I have 3 girlfriends and 4 boyfriends, and I'm hoping to propose to someone later today. Stardew Valley is basically just bisexuality simulator. Anyway, Amazonian Warriors in this episode is already getting great reviews, as Ice-T tells us in the world's most awkwardly delivered line of all time.
I know, I read on Kotaku that it's better than Civ 5 with the Brave New World expansion pack.
Ice-T canonically reads Kotaku. I think it's wild that this episode calls out Kotaku by name when it literally makes up almost everything else. Like, it's about a fake game. The violent game that other people play is called Kill or Be Slaughtered. That game's made up. And even, as we're gonna see later, they make up completely fictitious social media sites for the cyber harassment to take place. But Kotaku gets a shout out by name. Do we think Kotaku paid for product placement? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So back at the police station, Detective Olivia Benson is reading articles online about how video games make everyone violent. And she ponders aloud to us as viewers, is this Noah's future? Adolescent boys playing cyber cowboys and Indians. Someone got paid to write that line. Next, the SVU squad invites a VR game developer that they met at the game convention to come and help them out with the case. This upcoming section of the episode portrays all of these detectives as utterly incompetent at basic detective work. They never do any detective things. Instead, they go, I don't know what to do. Let's call in a random other character to help us. In this case, the SVU squad is trying to read some gaming forums online, but they can't tell what anyone is talking about. They just can't crack the code of the weird online teenage lingo. So they call in another game developer to help them figure out what the thread is saying, because they didn't think to just type the slang terms into Google and search what they mean, or maybe just ask a teenager. You're telling me none of them have like a teenage sibling or cousin or nephew or someone they could ask? No, instead teen slang is so foreign to them that they need a VR programmer to come in and break it down for them. Great detective work, officers! The VR developer pulls up a thread on the forum and says, peep this thread. He shows the team a message from one of the guys who attacked the gamer girl in the bathroom, but oh no, he's posted anonymously, so they don't know who he is. The detectives are all like, guess it's untraceable, it's anonymous. They then tell the VR developer that he has to now go undercover in the thread and post as a fellow teen gamer bro to get more info. I'm sorry, we're just going to go, he posted it anonymously, I guess we'll never know. This isn't the dark web, this is a public online forum. At least try to find his IP address. At least pretend you know how to be detectives. But no, it makes for a more dramatic episode if we send people undercover for something any competent detective could find in an afternoon. So the VR developer and one member of the SVU squad, the male cop who's not Ice-T, the white guy who's not Elliot Stabler, because I think Elliot Stabler retired a few seasons ago, white guy and VR developer go undercover as gamer bros, and they set up a meeting with the guys from the forum they set up to meet them in person. The way they do this is by posting on the forum and claiming that they successfully doxed the gamer girl and that the guy should come meet up with them to get the info all about her, which totally doesn't make them sound like cops at all. But for some reason, in this episode, no human behaves the way that an actual human behaves. We're in the Darman and Tommy Wiseau crossover cinematic universe, so for some ungodly reason, these guys just agree to meet up with them. So male cop and VR guy are outside talking to the toxic gamer bros, and they're like, "Oh, we doxed her. Now, tell us more about what you did to her in the bathroom." And the gamer bros are like, "Wait, actually, we didn't hear anything about her being doxed. How do we know that you're not lying to us?" Why did you agree to meet up with them? I don't get this. So anyway, male cop, in the most I'm a cop way possible, basically says, oh, trust me, we doxed her. I'll send you the link to it later.
Talking about GameStop. I'm definitely not a cop.
How do you do, fellow kids? It is I, Sir Not a Cop, here to talk to you casually, as a bro. Want to tell me all about the cruel crimes you committed yesterday? Just for fun, I'm not a cop. So for some reason, the gamer bros believe them, and they start talking about how great the girl's boobs felt when they were assaulting her. And then, in a twist no one saw coming, the guys get arrested. Ice-T pops out around the corner and yells, "You're under arrest!" And then, in a truly Emmy-worthy performance, as he handcuffs the guys, Ice-T says, "There's no reset button in the real world." I need to get a cursive tattoo saying that, like along the side of my foot. There's no reset button in the real world. You can't save scum your way out of this one, pal. SVU should hire me to write for them. That was a good line. So back at the police station, we learned that the gamer bros getting arrested has already gone viral. It's already become a meme. And where has it become a meme? None other than the popular social media site commonly used by toxic men, one called, you ready for this? It is called Red Chanet. Get it? It's like Reddit and 4chan combined, but somehow it's worse than both of them because that's more convenient for the episode. So the meme shows the guys getting arrested with #falsely-accused written on the picture. So my question is, who took this photo? We just saw the sting happen in the previous scene of the episode. So regardless of how the photo came into existence, the post is up there and someone posts a video in reply to the post. The video shows a creepy guy in a mask trying to remain anonymous, and he says that the two guys who were arrested were sacrificial lambs crucified on the altar of political correctness.
What a jerk.
So now it's time for the hardworking SVU squad to take their lunch break. Hater Girl and Ice-T are having lunch together, I guess because for some reason he enjoys having his coworker insult his hobbies to his face even when he's off the clock. Here's how their conversation goes. Hater Girl says, "You spend all day with a gun in your holster and still go home and play shoot-'em-up games after work." Ice-T says, "Sometimes all night." Hater Girl says, "What am I missing here?" I mean, the obvious answer is that what you're missing is basic human empathy. You're missing a pretty fundamental understanding that usually comes with the completion of your frontal lobe development, one that gives you an awareness that different people enjoy different things. Most people don't enjoy being a cop, but you do. What am I missing here? Different people like to do different things. And this information is somehow just mind-blowing to this police officer. As we know, the best cops are the people who lack the basic understanding that other people might think differently from them. But Ice-T, generous guy that he is, tries to explain it to her anyway. He explains that at work, he's in the real world where things are messy and complicated, but in a game, you can always tell the good guys from the bad guys. It's relaxing because of its simplicity. But honestly, the dude didn't need a reason, just let him play his games. Like, Hater Girl Cop, you enjoy arresting people every day? That sounds awful. What am I missing here? After lunch, the detectives are all tuning into a live stream where Reyna is promoting her Amazonian Warriors game, which is set to launch tomorrow at a big release event. But in the middle of the interview, the SWAT team breaks down her door and nails her to the ground. Meanwhile, the guy who's interviewing her on the live stream just has no idea what's going on. He's like, "Reyna, are you okay? Where'd you go? My dude, you're on a video call. You can see what's happening." The guy interviewing her becomes so confused about why she's not responding anymore that he picks up his phone and makes a phone call, like a regular phone call to Reyna to try to figure out if she's okay. Bro, use your eyes. You can't see the police literally pinning her to the ground in the other window of your own live stream? Do the writers for SVU think that live streams are like they work like landline phone calls or something? This looks like Red Letter Media's parody live stream they recently did about Madam Web.
Yeah, just let... Oh. Hold on.
He's not picking up. Mike!
Well,
Mike!
I can see him. He's reaching for his phone.
Oh, God.
He's right there.
Hold on, somebody's calling. Oh, it's Rich.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, Mike, we're still broadcasting. We can see you.
What?
You're smoking. That's a huge corporate no-no.
Oh, shit.
Madam Webb is unlike any of
But I can't hear you guys.
Well, yeah, but no, I can hear you.
genuinely refreshing.
Shortly after Reyna gets swatted, the SVU squad sees on Red Channel that the Gamer Bros are threatening to harm Reyna at the game's launch tomorrow. They've even posted another video. The video shows those creepy guys in masks again, and one of them says, direct quote, "Her game is derivative mind-numbing garbage. She's a whore. Holy non sequiturs, Batman." At first, it sounds like we're having a game review, and then it flips into something else. Hey, how'd you like that new game that came out? I thought it was derivative mind-numbing garbage. I don't recommend it. Yeah, why's that? She's a whore. What? The masked guys continue saying, if she and her social justice warriors don't leave gaming now, we will make them. Once again, the detectives involved are too lazy to do any detective work whatsoever and make no effort to find out where this was posted from. The excuse they give for why they can't investigate the video is they upload through the darknet. I thought this was Red Channel. I thought this was a regular public forum. Now we're suddenly on a dark website. We're on a site that's even worse than Kiwi Farms. Someone was paid to write this episode. Someone who last went on the internet in 2003 was paid to write this episode. The SVU squad asks Reyna to postpone her game launch since there's now been a direct violent threat made against her. But Reyna refuses, saying she doesn't want to let the trolls win. Her direct quote is, "I won't make the same mistake Sony did. Better to be called a bitch than a coward." So Sony and Kotaku are now the two companies called out by name, but apparently SVU is now throwing shade at Sony. My theory is that the lead writer of this episode has never played a video game in their life, and then one of the lower level writers on the episode had like a grudge against Sony or something, so they decided to just slip that line in during revisions. I don't know, that's just my guess. And to be fair, Sony's a pretty shit company. Their movies are by far the worst. Madam Web is a great stoner movie. I recommend watching it high off your ass, but on the bright side, Sony does make the PlayStation, okay? So anyway, it's time for the game's launch party. During the launch, Reyna is on stage introducing her game when all of a sudden, someone starts aiming laser pointers at her forehead. The cops find the people with the laser pointers, they remove these people from the venue, but once they're done doing that, all the lights go out and gunshots start going off. Once the room is dark, a voice comes over the loudspeaker saying, "Bitches will die. No social justice in gaming." We then learn that someone hacked the security system. Okay, and then we get a stereotypical cop chase throughout New York City. But the perpetrators have left a clue. On a giant billboard, they've broadcast on the big screen, "Game on, NYPD." The creepy guys in masks capture Reyna and stuff her into a van. The male cop from that undercover "how do you do fellow kids" scene earlier, he gets a call that says, "white van in an abandoned factory," so the cops head to the abandoned factory. When they get there, in the giant open room, they see a big flag hanging from the wall with the Killer Be Slaughtered game logo on it. The criminals have left a phone in the abandoned factory for the cops to find. The phone is sitting on a chair with a video open, ready to play. So somehow these guys timed it perfectly so that when the cops arrived on the scene, the phone would be fully unlocked. No black screen, no screensaver, the phone's fully charged, and it has the video open, ready to go for them to play right now. Like, they're just criminal masterminds, these guys. So in the video, the guys rip open Reyna's shirt and then they slap her, and then some text pops up on screen. And what do you think this text says? Level completed. They leveled up. Someone was paid to write this. So Ice-T remarks, "This is a game to them." And then Hater Girl replies, "Okay, so what is the next level?" Now we've got it where these guys are literally just being influenced to do violence directly by what they saw in the video game, like verbatim one-to-one transfer. This is going full 90s Jack Thompson. It's not even a subtle thing. It's like, it's not even a thing that you can make the argument like, oh, maybe in some cases the culture surrounding the aggression and the competitive spirit fostered within these communities can make some people more sexist in ways they didn't recognize at first, maybe more implicit bias forms as people are in games that force them to see things in more of a black and white way, and it affects our brains in more subtle ways like that. No. We don't get any of that. No nuance. It is so directed in your face. It is just like they played the game and then they decided to recreate the game directly in real life. When are they going to make an episode about how J.D. Salinger was John Lennon's real assassin?
You got real dark.
Do we know better than to treat books that way now, Law & Order? Do we? Actually, imagine a Law & Order episode about banned books, but they're on the side of the book banning. Like, you have a character, imagine there's a character who reads my friend Becky's book, Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda. This book is constantly getting challenged and banned in red states because they don't like that there's LGBTQ characters in it and things like that. So imagine there's a character who reads this book in a Law & Order episode and then actually does turn gay.
No homo.
Sorry, that idea is so shitty that SVU might actually try it, now that I've put that out into the universe. So this is me right now going on record and saying that that is my idea. OC Donut Steal, if SVU makes an episode like that, we can all accuse them of plagiarizing me. I'm saying so right now. So anyway, on to the next level. The guys are now torturing Raina, and we learn that of these three bad boys, one of them is played by none other than Logan Paul. That's right, the Logan Paul. He's playing a toxic gamer bro. He is acting.
Shut up, bitch!
Logan Paul should get an Emmy for this role, honestly, he should. A new video is soon uploaded to Red Channel, but to the cop's surprise, this video is geotagged. Because we know with these detectives' incredible mystery-solving skills, they could never trace anything online unless it's geotagged. I unironically think that this crime would have been solved faster by Wishbone wearing a Sherlock Holmes hat. They then find that the geotagged address leads to a local art teacher's house, so they go to her house, and she's shocked that the cops are just bursting in, banging down her door without a warrant or anything, but she is cooperative. She tells them that her husband recently died and that she has a son, Anthony, who's in college. Ice-T asks her, does he play video games? And she's like, yeah, why? And Ice-T, instead of answering her question, says, where are they? Where does he play video games? And of course, we know what the answer is, right? His mom's basement. Where else does any angry 19-year-old boy play games? So then they go down to their mom's basement where, surprise, it's the exact match from all the Red Channel videos. The mom comes into the station for questioning, and Sir Nauticop is interviewing her about it. The mom is like, my Tony is such a good boy. He'd never do something like this. And Sir Nauticop basically says, sometimes kids do things online without thinking about the real person on the other end. Which makes absolutely no sense because this entire episode has been about physical face-to-face violence, not online cyberbullying. The mom then explains that little Tony's been having a really tough time ever since his dad died, and I'm now realizing that literally no one in this episode has a dad. Tony only became violent after his dad died. Detective Olivia Benson's 2-year-old little boy is adopted, and as far as I know, she doesn't have any romantic partner, so that boy has no dad either. And now it sounds like the show is trying to say something about that. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But either way, it was kind of weirding me out. Also, just for clarification, this woman's son is not played by Logan Paul. He's one of the other two guys. So anyway, back to Hater Girl and Ice-T talking about the crime. Hater Girl says, do you think that they're still following the gamer script? To which Ice-T replies by explaining that SAing women is a mod for level 16 of Kill or Be Slaughtered. Excuse me, what? So they're following each level of the game verbatim, and also this game has assault mods. Okay. Soon the cops get a call from Raina where she tells them she's being held in a garage, and the cops rush after her, but they're skeptical, knowing it's probably a setup. Ice-T directly says as much. He says, this is the final level of the game. They call the cops, and when they rush in to save her, they attack. So my question is, if they're following the game script so closely, why aren't they doing anything unexpected? Why are they just doing exactly what the game does? Doesn't that make it easy for the cops to guess their next move? Or do these guys just know how bad the SVU squad is at being detectives? So everyone rushes to the garage where they're holding Raina, and when they walk in, they see Raina tied to a desk with a gun taped to her hands. The guys secured a gun to her hands and pointed it at the entryway, hoping that it would look like she was about to shoot the cops so that the cops would kill her instead out of self-defense, you know, very clever. But then, thankfully, lead detective Olivia Benson is very empathetic and smart, okay? She tells everyone to hold their fire, and then she cuts the tape and frees Raina. Meanwhile, Ice-T, Hater Girl, and Sir Nauticop are all running around on the garage's roof. Logan Paul tries to shoot at them. Hater Girl then finds good boy Tony, who explains that he intentionally geotagged the video because his friend Logan Paul had gone way too far and he wanted to put a stop to this. He even goes so far as to say,
I don't know what's real and what's a game.
Meanwhile, the third guy involved, the one who's not good boy Tony or Logan Paul, this guy has his gun aimed at Sir Nauticop. He tries to shoot, but the gun's recoil sends him falling backwards, to which Sir Nauticop very smugly replies, recoil, not like shooting in a video game, huh? And then Logan Paul pops out to deliver his most iconic line of all time.
Actually, it's exactly the same.
And here is where our cinematographer tried to get creative. The writers were trying to get creative, we had our editors trying to get creative, and now the cinematographer has decided this is my moment to shine. This is my Emmy reel moment right here. The camera is now framing the episode as a first-person shooter. Logan Paul is holding a gun, aiming it at the cops, but it looks just like the screen from gameplay in Kill or Be Slaughtered. See? Because his brain thinks that real life is just more of the video game. Video games poison your brain, kids. You can't tell the difference. He then yells at the cops, "Game over! Drop the gun!" But did you guys forget that Ice-T is a gamer too? He's just as good at Kill or Be Slaughtered as Logan Paul is, if not better. So now, in another extremely creative, Emmy-worthy cinematography moment, the camera's POV switches to Ice-T as the protagonist in the first-person shooter, and we follow his gun, because Ice-T is now in the video game too. Get it? It's okay when cops do it. Good thing we have a good guy with a gun. What is this, Ben Shapiro's Die Hard reboot for children? Anyway, before Logan Paul can fire his gun, Ice-T shoots him first and Logan Paul dies on the roof of a parking garage. Back at the police station, Ice-T is talking with Detective Olivia Benson, and she says to him, I quote, "So 20 years of gaming finally paid off." Okay. We need to unpack this, alright? So we've learned that video games are violent, and that's bad because it makes people into criminals because people can't tell the difference between violence in video games and in real life. But for cops, that's a good thing because video games making people more trigger happy with their guns. It's okay if you're a cop because the rules are different for cops. That's literally what this episode is telling us right now. Anyway, the episode ends with the SVU squad going to Raina's house, explaining that good boy Tony took a plea deal, Recoil Boy is going to trial, and I think Logan Paul is dead. Raina tells them that she's leaving the industry, and Hater Girl's like, but I thought you didn't want to let the bad guys win, and Raina's like, they've already won. Women in gaming, what did I expect? Smash cut to Dick Wolf. The end. Raina quits the industry. That's it. That is the Gamergate episode of Law & Order Special Victims Unit. Even outside of its comparison to the real-world Gamergate, this episode fails on so many levels just as a standalone piece of fiction. Obviously, it fails in real-world comparisons, too. This episode shows sexism and violence against women as so overt, and with no subtlety at all, that it's easy for actually sexist people out in the world to have now plausible deniability to say, well, I'm not like that. That's what real sexists look like. When I just harass women in games a little bit, like, it doesn't look like that. It's fine. It's doing a disservice by portraying it so overtly. It's like when we see Darman trying to solve racism in his videos. It's that kind of thing, right? We know it's not realistic and it doesn't actually have any positive impact on the way we interpret things or connect life to art. In its comparison to Gamergate, it also completely ignores how the controversy didn't actually have anything to do with whether video games themselves, the content of the game, causes violence or not. It wasn't a Boomers After School special. It was a cyberbullying hate campaign against women who dared to critique games in a way that certain fans didn't like, or who then had their sex lives non-consensually distributed across the internet. It really didn't have much to do with the content of the games themselves. This episode seemed like it was trying to tie the 2010s controversy of Gamergate in with the 90s controversy with Jack Thompson, do video games cause violence, that whole thing, and it smashed it together in this weird, incoherent story. But even outside of its real-world connections, the episode fails as a contained piece of fiction, as a story within itself. Not only did the detectives show extreme levels of incompetence at every level of detecting within the investigation, not only do the perpetrators behave in ways that humans would never reasonably behave, but the episode's messaging at the end seems to be that yes, video games do make people more violent, but it's useful for cops to do that because cops need to be willing to shoot without remorse.
I just went and got the bad guy.
So I'm just over here like, who the fuck was this episode even for? I'm curious about your guys' thoughts about it as well, but for now, I'm off to go play Stardew Valley, where I'm gonna use the new Galaxy Sword I got the other day to enact violence against the ghosts in level 51 to 70 of the mines. Yeah, bitches, I found the prismatic shard. I'm gonna use my sword and fight off the ghosts, and then I'm gonna mine a ton of diamonds to give to all 3 of my Stardew Valley girlfriends. I'll see you guys in a couple weeks for more videos, but in the meantime, stay cool, gamer girls. Bye!
Get you some nuts!
Yeah, you effing.
Up yours, woke moralist. We'll see who cancels who.